Voletta Wallace, the mother of the late rapper Notorious B.I.G, has died. She was 78. Wallace was in hospice care at the time of her death and reportedly died of natural causes. Wallace took on the role of protecting her son's career and legacy after his untimely death in 1997 at the age of 24. Though she worked as a preschool teacher before her son was killed, she quickly shifted focus and became the person responsible for shaping Converse. It was Wallace who accepted the MTV Video Music Award for Biggie's album Life after death just 6 months after he died. Wallace also stood on stage with Afeni Shakur, the mother of rapper Tupac Shakur, 2 years later. At the time, both women asked for fans to unite in honor of their sons, who were once friends but ultimately became enemies before they were both shot to death in separate incidents. Asians about her son for decades. Wallace also founded the Christopher Wallace Memorial Foundation, through which she worked with other mothers who lost their children at early ages. She was also part of the team that brought the 2021 film City of Lies to the big screen, which examined the alleged police cover-ups related to Biggie's death. In an interview for the film, Wallace spoke to Screen Rant about where her son might be if he were still alive. "I try not to think about it, because sometimes it could be depressing. I always wonder, if my son was here, what would he be doing?" she told the publication at the time. "I told somebody that maybe he would be in jail by now, but I know he would be a successful human being, because he spoke about it, and it was something that he believed in. He influenced a lot of young individuals, because I see kids who weren't even born yet when he died and still they're saying how much they love my son's music," she added. "These are people who weren't even born yet when he died, so what would happen? What would have happened to him? Oh Lord, I don't even want to fathom that thought." One of her last public statements was against Sean Diddy Combs in the wake of his legal issues stemming from numerous allegations of sexual assault, among other crimes. Diddy worked with and performed alongside Biggie before and up to the time of his death. Combs denies all allegations against him and currently awaiting trial. "I hope that I see Sean one day, and the only thing I want to do is slap the daylights out of him. And you can quote me on that," she told Rolling Stone in May 2024. "Because I liked him. I didn't want to believe all the awful things, but I'm so ashamed and embarrassed." Wallace had been instrumental in carrying on her son's legacy and overseeing his estate, following his murder at the age of 24 on March 9, 1997. She established the Christopher Wallace Memorial Foundation and was a producer on the 2009 biopic Notorious, directed by George Tillman Jr. and starring Jamal Woolard. She was portrayed by Angela Bassett in the film. Born on February 3, 1953 and raised in Jamaica, Wallace moved to Brooklyn and worked as a preschool teacher. Biggie Smalls, born Christopher George Lator Wallace, was her only child, born on May 21, 1972. His father Selwyn George Lator left the family just before Christopher turned 3 years old, with Voletta left to raise him as a single mother. She later published her memoir Biggie in 2005, and in 2021 she worked as an executive producer on the Netflix documentary Biggie. "I got a story to tell." When promoting that film, she told the Associated Press, "They never knew me. The public never knew me. I was thrust into this environment, I should say, after he passed away, because I'm a very private person. Extremely private. What he was doing out there, maybe I should have known. But honestly, I didn't. And to this day, there are people who are saying, 'Oh, she knew.' Whispers, but I never knew." She spoke of her joy at Biggie's induction into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame in 2020. "Brooklyn, we did it. This is so long overdue," she wrote. "Thank you to everyone that helped make this happen for Christopher. Love you all." Wallace also was outspoken about the allegations against Sean Diddy Combs in 2024, telling Rolling Stone, "I'm sick to my stomach. I'm praying for his mother. I don't want to believe the things that I've heard, but I've seen the video. I pray that he apologizes to her." On the outro to Christopher Wallace's second posthumous album, Born Again, his mother, Voletta Wallace, says, "The thing that my son loved most about life was the fact that he was in a position to help, position to share, position to give to others who needed, to others who wanted, to others appreciated the gifts that he gave." It isn't hard to see where this quality came from, both in nature and nurture. It was from his mother, who died this morning in hospice at age 78. On the unhappy occasion, I spoke this afternoon to the writer-director Dream Hampton. The journalist who came as close as Biggie Smalls had to a confidant/chronicler in his life and afterlife, who of course developed a relationship with Ms. Wallace as well. "What occurs to me in this moment is how young she was when I met her, Hampton says. She must have been in her 30s. They were close in the way that only a single mother and her only child could be. Voletta Wallace was just over 50 years old when her son was murdered on March 9, 1997, inheriting an estate then worth $10 million, along with a lifetime of grief. Today, that estate, administered by the Christopher Wallace Memorial Foundation, is estimated to be worth approximately $160 million. She managed it alongside Biggie's widow, Faith Evans, and his merchandising manager, Wayne Barrow. From all appearances, the estate was managed judiciously. Wallace, a former preschool teacher, made sure it provided educational opportunities to children, and above all ensured the execution of her son's wish that her grandchildren would never want for anything in their lives. During Biggie's life, Ms. Wallace knew little of the art form her son was perhaps better at than anyone who came before or who followed. But she learned to appreciate it after his gift cost him his life. A self-described private person, she was thrust into a role that she handled with aplomb, becoming his most vocal and visible ambassador. In her words and through the example she provided, she taught Dream Hampton something valuable when it came to how to deal with the unimaginable. When I went to visit her in New Jersey about 7 or 8 months after Biggie's murder, she admonished me for not having been in touch, Hampton says. I told her the truth, that I didn't know how to show up. That simple interaction helped me to learn that showing up is all that's required when grief is so enormous. In 2020, when Christopher Wallace was inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, Ms. Wallace visited the Breakfast Club radio show. When asked what she would do if her son was still here, she said, between the good-natured laughter of a tough but loving first-generation Caribbean single mother in Brooklyn, I'd strangle him. Because some of his associates I still want to strangle. This is the real service, the love and care she was able to provide for her son that lasted far longer than his brief life. Which isn't to say his legacy has survived without blemish. On March 25th of last year, Biggie's frequent collaborator Sean Combs had his properties in Miami and Los Angeles raided by Homeland Security investigators. He was later arrested and charged with sex trafficking, racketeering conspiracy, and other horrific alleged crimes, all of which he has denied. Critics and rubberneckers were quick to point out that the date coincided with the 27-year anniversary of the classic Life After Death, Christopher Wallace's first posthumous album, released just 2 weeks after he was murdered. Biggie's estate was seemingly never overtaken by the public feuding and backbiting we've seen far too often when other great artists die. It was always clear who was in charge, who knew him best, who had the firmest sense for what her son would have wanted, and who guided his legacy with that certainty above all other agendas or concerns. It was his best friend, his mother. I am in awe of the steadfast way she helped manage his estate, Hampton says. No one, least of all Puff, wanted her as an enemy. These things can go south so quickly and often do, but she was formidable. Wallace is survived by her grandchildren, Tiana and CJ Wallace. It is with immense sadness that we share this news with you, and ask that you give our family the space and time needed to grieve this monumental loss. The obituary continues. Thank you for your continued outpouring of love, prayers, and condolences in this difficult time.